Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are beginning to play with Aetherdrift cards, and we are playing Defend the Rider because what better place to start with new cards than our beloved Green-Black Turbodepths, which doesn't often get a lot of love from new sets, but I think we've got some this time around. So for those who are unfamiliar, we are making a 2020 with Dark Depths. We either strip all the counters off with Vampire Hexmage, which gives us a 2020, or we make a copy that has no counters on, which also gives us a 2020. So our whole deck has got tutors of varying stripes to try and find these cards. So with both these cards tutor for lands. We've got Hand Disruption in Inquisition of Kozilek, Duress, Thoughtseize. We've got Pithing Needle for Wasteland and all that sort of jazz. And we've got fast mana off of Petals and Spirit Guides. So why are we running Defend the Rider today? Normally we would be running something like Not of This World, which can protect us from spells or abilities. So it can work against Solitude, Karakas, Swords to Plowshares, all that sort of fun. Defend the Rider can do the same, but does cost 1 mana. However, we have this additional mode of it, which is where we get a 1/1 token. This token allows us to dodge things like Shoulder's Edict. So against things like Dimir Tempo, where they have both Brazen Borrower and Shoulder's Edict, this card allows us to defend against whatever their interaction is, which is pretty nice. The extra mana is definitely a cost here. So we've gone up 1 land and we're having Yavimaya, which gives us more green pips as well, so it's going to be easier to cast this and hopefully be able to use it. Now there is a secret mode of this as well. It says target permanent. That permanent does not have to be your MARIT LAGE token. Sometimes it can be your Pithing Needle. Sometimes it can be a land that's being targeted by a wasteland from your opponent. So this can kind of act a little bit like Stifle used to do in the Rainbow Depths builds. So yeah, that's pretty much the list. I did just record a video with this, but it didn't have any sound, so I'm doing it all over again. We finished 3-2 in that video, and we did win a game off the back of Defend the Rider. So hopefully we can do something cool with it this time around. Sideboard-wise, we've just got more protection. We've got some Null Rod effects. We're going up to 4 because we don't have Once Upon a Time in this list. We've also got 3 Faerie Macabre. The reason I'm running Faerie Macabre is because it's the best graveyard hate against blue-black Reanimator. So this dodges counter magic, and it's not just sitting in play so they can just bounce out of play when they want to go like a Leyline does. This is just the best piece of graveyard hate against that deck specifically, but it looks a lot worse when you're playing against Dredge or Ouphe spells. We've also got the Abrupt Decay that I always love to have because they answer problem permanents like Ensnaring Bridge or Blood Moon, Harmony of the Seas, Opposition Agent, a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, this is the deck. If you are interested in learning about this deck, I have an over 50-page guide to this deck on my Patreon, which is linked in the description below. It has a regular meta update where we talk about how this deck figures into the meta and what the meta looks like right now, as well as a full sideboarding matrix for the current build I am playing. Not this particular build, just the one I would be playing in a competitive tournament. This is the first day I'm playing this one, so I don't have all the numbers and the ins and outs perfectly worked out yet. Alright, before we get stuck in, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's see if we can defend the MARIT LAGE with this new card from Aetherdrift. If you want to play some Eternal Magic, why not check out the New York City first annual Eternal Team Trios Winter Tournament. This is a legacy, modern and vintage team event, and team events are always some of the best of Magic events going, so why not check out if you're in the area. Our opening hand for the first game does not have access to Dark Depths. I don't think we can keep a hand that doesn't have access to Dark Depths because we only have 12 ways of getting it, and that is not very odds on to do it in a quick enough time, so we're going to mulligan this. This is a turn 1 piece of discard, turn 2 Hexmage Debts. We keep those all day, every day. I believe I'm probably getting rid of the Verdant Catacombs here, because these 3 lands make us a 2020, these 3 lands make us a 2020. We have a lot of options. Hopefully our opponent doesn't just have all of the source here. Let's see if they entomb in response and just have multiple reanimation spells, because that's a thing that happens quite often. Exhume, Collective Brutality, care about these cards. Collective Brutality only hits instants or sorceries, so that doesn't actually impact us, but then gaining 2 life does, weirdly. This allows them to put a big monster into the graveyard. It's the only way they can put a big monster into the graveyard, and the only way we lose is if they put a big monster into the graveyard, then reanimate it. So I think we just get rid of the Collective Brutality here. And then next turn, we can make a massive creature. So currently the second most successful combo deck in the format is these black reanimator decks, and the most successful is the blue-black reanimator deck. So do what you will with that information. Swamp. Yep. You're going to see an Exhume here. Sure. We will beat this. This is not going to match up to a 2020 very well. Playing out the Lotus Petal. Thoughtseize, we don't have time for that. Let's make our monster. Do we think our opponent has a way of dealing with our Dark Depths? In a deck like this, they're probably not going to have any sort of Wasteland type action. If they're running Exhume, they're very deep into the big monsters plan. But they might have an Edict. So this, if we make this and we lose to an Edict, then that's on us. Because we can just wait a turn, play the Thespian stage out, and then we can have a creature that can get through an Edict. Okay, game one, victorious for us. Love to see it. I don't have the exact ins and outs with this deck yet, so we're going to have to play it by ear a little bit. So we've got, because this is a new build entirely, this is the very first time I'm playing Defend the Rider, apart from the league I literally just ran and realised that it didn't record sound for, which I'm still angry about. We don't need a Ghost Quarter in this matchup. We probably don't need a Sejiri Steppe, but you can sometimes keep it in to push through a big monster, which can be really relevant. So we want these Faerie Macabres. How useful are the Pithing Needles in this matchup? Not very. Our opponent may have something like a Magus of the Moon pivot option, so I don't mind having a couple of Abrupt Decays. What does Defend the Rider do for us? It gets us around any sort of edict, so that can include the edict from an Archon of Cruelty, perhaps. So we want to see what the new card does. I don't think I actually want this card in the deck right now, but I'm going to play it to test it out. I think I would rather board this out and board in a couple of Needles, but I think we're going to keep the Defend the Riders in and see how that feels. What does this hand do? We have a Duress on turn 1, which is not bad, but it's probably going to be too slow against what our opponent's up to. And then the next turn, what are we doing? We can play this out. We can then Sejiri Steppe. We're still a bit slower. I think we can do a bit better. 2 pieces of hand disruption, a route to the Dark Depths, and then we're going to need to draw 1 of 16 cards. So that's like a 1 in 4 shot at finding another card. That's fine. I think just having the double piece of disruption here makes sense. I'm going to keep this. I think I'm going to get rid of, I think it's the forest. Is it the forest or is it the, I think it's the forest. We want to be able to play on black here in case we draw things like Hexmage. So we want to fire off the Thoughtseize first, and then the Inquisition is a safe one to fire off later. Okay, they've brought it in with the Room Apprentice combo, so we have the Abrupt Decay for that. So a lot of these decks, they're not playing Magus, they're playing Witherbloom, so we kind of cover either half of whatever they're bringing in with this Abrupt Decay. They probably take the Sylvan Scrying and slow us down unless they really need like a bulk of cards in their hand. Just like the prospect of getting hit by double hand disruption, then they might just start cracking into these. Right, taking our Thoughtseize. As a Bloodstone Mire, there is a Swamp. There is a Dark Ritual. Are we dead this turn? An Entomb. There's an Archon of Cruelty. Their Animate Deading are their Archon of Cruelty. Okay. I think we have to get rid of the Inquisition of Kozilek here. The plan is to Abrupt Decay the Animate Dead. And then our opponent will reanimate this again and we will lose the game. But it's a plan. Okay. A Vampire Hexmage. I will play this Bayou. And I will pass. So we have a route to the combo now. We have to discard a card here, which is a little bit awkward. Are we going to discard the Hexmage? That is our route to the combo, but we need to not die to this. So we need to make sure we have a land drop. We need to make sure we can get the Dark Depths. So I believe we are discarding the Hexmage here. Our opponent now has a bunch of cards in hand, so it's not impossible. They just immediately reanimate this, which should obviously make me sad, but it's perfectly expected when they disrupt our hand and also make a creature on turn 1. Lotus Petal. So we've got 2 cards in hand. Black. Chain of Smog. Targeting me. Okay, so I guess we are getting rid of these 2 and we're trying to draw a land. We will not fire it back at our opponent. They might even want us to do that. Come on, land. I should have been more specific, really, shouldn't I? So we're going to take 8 this turn. So we have to discard this Thespian stage because this doesn't tap for the Abrupt Decay that we need to survive. So we're going to go to 1, and then we have 1 draw step to see if we're still alive. We're holding in there, but it's not going amazingly. If we blow this up and they have nothing, then maybe we can recover from here, but it's a bit of a tall ask. Fortunately, we get to be on the play for the last game. 4 mana. An Unmask. Well, that's the game right there. Would we have drawn it? No. Okay. So I think we just go back in again. I want even more Abrupt Decays than I did before, so we're going to board out these Defend the Riders, I think. Let's just crack in. I'm usually pretty happy to play into these Reanimator decks. Like, their best hands will beat just about everyone, but that's, you know, what they do. But they have to do all sorts of dukes and stuff in the sideboard because their deck is a little bit sketchy in some respects. This does not have an access to our combo or any disruption. This is an easy mulligan for us. We have some disruption. We have access to the combo. We would very much like our opponent to mulligan. These decks tend to just win on 7 card hands against pretty much everything. Right, so we keep this. What are we getting rid of? How much fast mana do we require? If we go turn 1, Thespian Stage, Lotus Petal, Sylvan Scrying for Dark Depths. Turn 2, if we find any piece of fast mana, we get to go. So I think that means we get rid of the Verdant Catacombs, because this is going to be a bit of a race, I would imagine. So we will use the Lotus Petal to play the Sylvan Scrying here, because our opponent's more likely to duress us than anything else if they've got additional discard there. And they obviously can't duress away a Spirit Guide. The other option is to play the Spirit Guide and just leave the Petal in play. Is that better? Is it better to just do it that way? I think it actually might be. Right, we're going to do it this way. And validate the duress as much as we can. So any piece of fast mana, we get to make a 20/20 next turn. We have their graveyard covered, but they have 7 cards in hand, so the chances of them having some sort of hand disruption is alarmingly high. No hand disruption. Yet, at least. Piece of fast mana, please. Not a piece of fast mana. Do we play out the Dark Depths so our opponent has the fear that we can go? And maybe they play differently because of it. I think that's probably a good shout. This also stops us getting the Dark Depths taken out of our hand by like Chain of Smog action. So I think I like playing the Dark Depths out here. So now our opponent is on notice. They might think that they're kind of in check, that we're going to have another Spirit Guide. We've already shown them one this turn, this game. So maybe they're going to be like, okay, maybe they've got another one. Maybe we have to play in such a way that we can try and navigate through a Dark Depths. This could be a Surveil land. It's not. This could be an Entomb. I would love to see an Entomb here, because then we know our Faerie Macabre's doing something. A Dark Ritual. Are we getting hand disrupted before they put anything into the graveyard? 5 mana. Double Ritual. Could be a hard cast Unmask into Entomb Reanimate. That certainly beats us. Well, it doesn't necessarily beat us, because we can make a monster in combat. Collective Brutality. Target opponent reveals their hand, choose an instant or sorcery card, that player discards it. So this is exactly what I was talking about, the duress effect. So I can't believe they didn't discard anything for this. So this doesn't get them a monster into the graveyard. So they're just going to play the Witherbloom Apprentice combo, I suspect. They have the green mana here, they have the black mana here. That's what this feels like. So we're going to be stuck with this Faerie Macabre with nothing to do with it. But we did board in all of our answers to the Witherbloom guy. Okay, they're going for an Entomb line, so our Faerie Macabre is going to be viable here. Do they have multiple attempts? Perhaps that's what they're trying to do. Just sort of bully their way through. Certainly reasonable. Well, it's actually pretty unreasonable, but okay, so we have to fire this off. Sometimes the only way out is right through. What do we want to get? Else do we want to get rid of? Probably the Entomb is fine. I don't think it matters which the other card is. Right, so we've gone through that turn. We don't get to make this. We could tap it and see if our opponent scoots to us tapping this. Alright. A Sylvan Scrying that we're not going to be using. Would I prefer to have a permanent green-black source? I think I would to this Urborg. Although we can play this Urborg out and then we have access to 3 mana here. Alright, and we don't have to pop our Petal. Okay, so we can beat a reanimated monster this turn as well, because we can make our 20/20 and then we can go in Sylvan Scrying, go and get the Sejiri Steppe and push through. Now, if they hand disrupt us as well as making a big monster this turn, then obviously that's not ideal for us. But we'll see what they do. Bloodstained Mire, 2 cards in hand. A reanimate on our Faerie Macabre. That is not what our opponent wants to do there. Okay, so we should have this one now. I'm not expecting an Edict effect. I would be very surprised if there was one. Obviously, be sad for us. Alright, I don't even want to go through it. I don't think they've seen the Sylvan Scrying, because last time I looked at our hand, they would have taken it if they did. But yeah, we got the match. I think we're pretty good into Reanimated. Generally speaking, having main deck Graveyard Hate is not the worst. Let's go to round 2. So this requires us to draw 1 of 16 cards in our deck. However, we have a lot of redundancy, which might be a good thing, but we also are kind of at the mercy of the top of our deck, and our deck mulligans very well. So I'm just going to enjoy the mulliganing well that our deck can do. This needs 1 mana source to go. 1 land even, it works, right? So we keep this. We're getting rid of a Hexmage or a crop rotation here. Kind of a tricky one to decide. I think it's a crop rotation. We only have one green mana right now. Right, let's see what our opponent's up to. So this can be a turn 2, a Tamiyo. Off of a basic island, that doesn't tell us that much. Okay, here's a choice. Are we Thoughtseizing our opponent right now? Or are we Pithing Needling? I think we're Thoughtseizing, and if they have a wasteland in hand, then we Lotus Petal, Pithing Needle. Brainstorm, Force of Will, Reanimate. So That is an interesting one. So we take the Brainstorm and they can't flip the Tamiyo. They also can't Force of Will for a turn. That seems okay. Then we need them to not draw a blue card. But we could just draw a Dark Depths here and just be having a great time. Please play a land that we haven't seen. And Entomb, yeah, we did not need to play into this. We could have played out this Lotus Petal here. We absolutely punted this one, I think, by not playing out the Lotus Petal. What do we got here? Yeah, we definitely could have played out the Lotus Petal and have the access to the crop rotation there for worst case scenario. That was a little bit loose. So we got Wasteland, Daze, Tamiyo, Thoughtseize, Animate Dead. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to get through. Now, we could have stopped this. Stays on us a little bit there. And this whole game is just going to pivot on that one slight snafu. Okay, I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal. Out this Dark Depths. I'm going to play out this Vampire Hexmage into this Force of Will. Presumably pitching the Tamiyo. So we take 7. Then we have to get through this Wasteland. If they Wasteland us, we can crop rotate, but that's into a Daze. Ponder as well. So we could have played out a Pithing Needle, but that would be into a Daze as well. This is the reason why I didn't play it out, because it doesn't really accomplish what we need. So if we crop rotate this, it does get hit by this Daze in our opponent's hand. I don't think we can afford to have that 2-for-1 come our way. Or their way, I guess. So we've still got a Daze that we're worried about. We could have avoided all this by playing out the Lotus Petal. Now, we might still lose that game if we do play out the Lotus Petal, because we would have to get rid of our only mana source to try and stop our opponent. And they would have a Tamiyo on board. I think it's still objectively the correct thing to do, because we just lose this really quickly. But I think we're in a pretty horrible spot whatever happens there. Alright, what are we looking at here, deck? Another Pithing Needle. So we're going to take 7. We know they've got a Daze. Yeah, I think we're done there. Yeah, we made a misstep. I think based on what we've drawn here, I think we still almost certainly lose to this Tamiyo anyway. But yeah, that was rough. Okay, I would like some Graveyard Hate, please. We need to respect Harbinger of the Seas a little bit. So you sort of want this sort of action. They have Wasteland. They have stuff we want to Sejiri Steppe our way through. So those cards have to stay. We need to keep hold of these Pithing Needles. Probably want like just 2 decays is fine. We can probably trim a little bit on things like Defend the Rider, and maybe we can trim on a Pithing Needle. I think we probably have to get rid of another Defend the Rider. The game is going to be over quite quickly. We want the fast mana so we can try and power out our combo quickly. We need the Hand Disruption because of their combo. Maybe it's all the Defend the Rider that have to go here. It can protect us from a Wasteland a little bit, but the Pithing Needle was better at doing that. The fact that we have to respect the Harbinger of the Seas is really irritating here. We have some Graveyard Hate, we have a Pithing Needle. We just need a little bit of mana to get where we're going. I will keep this. It's not the fastest hand you've ever seen, but we get to play turn 1 Pithing Needle around Daze. And then we also have the Graveyard Hate as well. And if we don't get hit by our opponent's Graveyard Hate, their Graveyard-based plan, we win the game. Like, we don't care about Baragos. You know, maybe they can gain a little bit more life, so we have to hit them twice. But generally speaking, we're not interested in their tempo plan. Our deck is really good into tempo decks. A Bayou, you say? I do like having access to a Bayou here. The problem with this Duress is our opponent is holding up potential Brainstorm. Right, they are entombing. This is good for us. This means we get to take away the creature. How many reanimation spells they have? A lot is the answer to that one. And they have a Brazen Borrower. That is good to know about. What do we want to do here? Do we take the Reanimate because it's cheaper? So we're more likely to be able to make them play more mana into the Borrower. I think that makes more sense here. Take a Reanimate. So we're going to have to work our way through this Brazen Borrower somehow. Alright, let's get rid of this Atraxa and this Entomb. Alright, that's a good example of why Faerie Macabre is the best hate card against them. So they got 4 cards in hand, so they have 1 mystery card, so they could have a blue card to pair with the Force of Will. An Urborg. Does that change anything here? It doesn't hurt, does it? We can put a 20/20 into play next turn if our crop rotation resolves. Probably a Surveil land, I would imagine. But we can't just crop rotate willy-nilly because we might need a Bojuka Bog so we don't die. They don't want a Force of Negation. That's interesting. There's a Wasteland. We have that covered right now. An Inquisition of Kozilek is the exact sort of card that we've been looking for here. So let's cast as Inquisition of Kozilek targeting our opponent. A Brainstorm would be really irritating because they get to hide the Borrower. If they Borrower, bouncing our Pithing Needle, and then Wasteland us. Okay, that's what they're going for here. If they Wasteland us here, I don't think that's the end of the world, is it? I think we want to just try and work out which land we keep here. An undestroyable green source is pretty nice. So our opponent's got some mystery cards in hand. Crop rotationing away our Bayou here. Looking at the Thespian stage. This copies this before they have access to that wasteland. A Borrower resolves, and then we get to take a little peek at their hand. All animate deads. Okay. Understood, opponent. So they have access to a chump blocker. Then they can redeploy the chump blocker using animate deads for a few turns in a row. Certainly irritating, but we can get through that with any sort of land tutor. Going to take us off some mana, makes sense. But now they're just in the abyss. They probably don't have that many borrowers in their whole list. A Hexmage. Okay, let's deploy this Pithing Needle on Wasteland, I think is the correct choice still. Maybe we should have played out the Dark Depths first and see if we could bait them into using the Wasteland and making a mistake. But that's a bit insulting where our opponent is a pretty good magician. So under the bus this goes. Play out Dark Depths so that we're closer towards the combo for the next pop around. I think we're going to see an Animate Dead on their Brazen Borrower. But they have enough mana that they can do like a cantrip first, so they can try and find a real answer. Which is not really what we want to see. Right, there's the Animate Dead. The Abyss continues to rumble on. A Sylvan Scrying that we can't quite cast. Under the bus with this Borrower. And we're back to this nonsense again. Hopefully it's just another Animate Dead on the Borrower. Okay, that's good news for us. Means they're not killing our guy. Can we draw a piece of fast mana so we can deploy this Sylvan Scrying? Daze plays here. Yep, they have the Daze. This also gives them a Surveil for next turn as well. Getting a little bit dicey for us. The Abyss continues to eat their creatures. They've got an Undercity Sewers and a Mystery card in hand. They will know if they're dead right now. They are dead. Excellent. We get to go to game 3. So I like having a couple of Abrupt Decays here. Do I want to bring this Pithing Needle back in on the draw? I like having these sorts of things here. There's an argument to take out the Duress in favour of a Pithing Needle. I don't think I'm going to. They might be easing off of the graveyard plan a little bit, actually, so I think we will have the 4th Pithing Needle back in this time around. We could go something to defend the Rider, but as you saw, like our mana is very tight in this matchup because it's quite a condensed matchup in terms of how quickly it plays out and when the key pivotal turns are. All right, let's just try this. This is turn 1, Hand Disruption. Turn 2, Sylvan Scrying for piece of our combo, and then at some point we can try and win the game. Do I think a piece of Hand Disruption plus Graveyard 8 is enough to be getting on with? Our hand is very weak to a Thoughtseize. It's very, very unlikely we get reanimated on in the early turns of the game with this hand. When we have the Sylvan Scrying, we're trying to draw into, what, 23 cards? No, 19 cards, right? So 1 in 3, better than 1 in 3 cards goes with this to win us the game, right? All right, I think we'll keep this. We're also on the draw. So by turn 2, we should have the combo assembled statistically. Inquisition being a card that gets around our opponent's Borrower is really nice here. Pithing Needle. Okay, I'll play out this Urborg. I'll play out this Lotus Petal. I'll Inquisition our opponent here. Our opponent's on 4 cards. A Wasteland over there. Understood. So they have a Brainstorm. We're going to take that. And then we're going to play... We don't really want to play this out on the Wasteland just yet. I don't think that's what I'm about here. Because they Wasteland our Urborg. We don't care that much because we got another one. The idea is we can Sylvan Scrying for something and then play the Pithing Needle on Wasteland. They've got a clue. They can play a Wasteland and hold it up and then threaten to crack this or Wasteland us. That's probably the most efficient use of their mana, but they could just ponder Wasteland, which is also totally fine. There's a Wasteland. You can snap that right off. I know you want to. I did not. I'm doing it now. Does that make any difference to me? No. No. Okay. I'm going to play out this Pithing Needle on Wasteland. I'm just going to try and grind through our opponent's resources. I would love our opponent to try and do some sort of reanimate line so we can leverage this Faerie Macabre. They've obviously still got a bunch of big fatties in the deck. I think they've correctly identified their tempo game plan is not really going to cut it versus what we're doing. We have the decay, so we don't care if this flips. We can just answer it. That's why we are naming Wasteland with this. Have we got another land, or have they just got lots of business in hand? Would like to find some more mana so we can play around the days. Faerie Macabre. If we Sylvan Scrying right now, we could get the wrong piece, and that's not where we want to be. So I'm just going to pass the turn. This also gives us the ability to answer a Harbinger of the Seas, which we're not really ready for. Just going to be cracking clues here, undoing their mulligan. Yep, Tamiyo is a pretty messed up Magic the Gathering card when it gets to go. Right, we're going to see another clue, enter our opponent's side of the battlefield. We really need them to do some reanimate stuff. Troll of Khazad-dûm. Okay, so they're going to play this Underground Sea, and they're going to animate dead on their troll here. No. Okay. That is interesting. An Elvish Spirit Guide. Again, we don't know what piece we're trying to go for, so it makes it really awkward for us. And we just have to hold again. Like, we're not under any life total pressure, but they are just mounting cards, which is a real pain for us. Cracking a clue, yeah. Now, we only care about a very specific subset of our opponent's cards. So them drawing lots of cards isn't always the worst thing in the world. Surely they're going to animate dead this turn. Just another Troll Cycle. Is this going to be a Surveil land? No, an Underground Sea. A Ponder. Opponent's got a lot of action over there. They can flip the Tamiyo if they want to. I think if they flip the Tamiyo, we probably have to Abrupt Decay it. We probably use the Elvish Spirit Guide to do it, because this can tap for whatever colour we need. Not flipping the Tamiyo. A Vampire Hexmage. Okay, so we know what we're looking for now. Our opponent has a lot of cards. Let's Sylvan Scrying here. What amount of resources does our opponent have access to? Are they going to daze us? Is it worth our time trying to play around daze? If we wait one more turn, we do get to play around daze, and we're holding up Abrupt Decay this whole time. This exposes us to Thoughtseize. If we don't go for it now, they are drawing more and more cards. Not the easiest call, this one. This is our only green source right now as well. Alright, I'm going to wait and preserve our Lotus Petal in case it becomes a really important game object. Because it might be clutch to getting rid of a blocker, or whatever. Might be removing a Tamiyo so they can't buy back something spooky like a Brainstorm and try and find an out that way. Yeah, Tamiyo has more than undone their mulligan here. A Barrow Goyf. Don't think I care about that one. So we could kill this now, so they don't gain the life. And then maybe they reanimate it next turn. This takes us off of our Faerie Macabre plan. Sorry, our plan to play around days unless we draw a mana source. How much do we care about this Barrow Goyf? Like, it's definitely annoying and can dig them towards a Brazen Borrower. I think I'm going to kill this. The chance of us drawing into a land is very high. Like, our deck has a lot of mana in. Are we trying to Thoughtseize our opponent here? I think we are. We need to play this a little bit cagey. Let's use our Dark Depths instead for mana, in case something weird happens. Double Borrower, Daze. Okay, so the Daze we've been playing around has been good to us. I guess we get rid of the Borrower here. That's the most annoying of those cards, I think. We'll eventually play around the Daze. But our opponent is quite a commanding position here. We just couldn't quite string together another mana source early enough, which is unfortunate. Surprised they're not firing off Reanimate and Animate Deads out earlier. Here's an Animate Dead on a Barrow Goyf. We will exile the Barrow Goyf, and I think we get rid of... Are they going to try and reanimate a Troll? They are. I'll get rid of this Troll and this Brazen Borrower. I don't think that's a shocker to our opponent, because what else are we doing if our hand isn't putting anything into play? A Boseiju. That gives us the ability to play out our Hexmage here. Around a daze. Obviously, cracking this and making our guy is not an option while the Borrower's around, but this means our opponent always has to keep up 2 mana on their turn. Force of Will pitching a Ponder. I don't think that was necessary from our opponent. But they've got, you know, a lot of resources they're working with. We now have perfect information on our opponent's hand. Just cracking a clue here. Because they also still have the Borrower, Hit the Needle, and Wasteland us. Like, they have lots of options of how to do this. So our opponent has seen, what, like 7 more cards than us this game? So they've seen about 50% more cards than we have. Because this Tamiyo is just doing incredible work for them. Which is unfortunate. Normally our hand would clock before they could start doing stuff with the Tamiyo, but it just didn't quite come together for us here. Alright, they're cracking a clue. Are they going to be flipping this Tamiyo? They would like to Thoughtseize me. So that goes and takes away our Abrupt Decay. Knew we had a reactive card in hand. Right, so they're going to flip the Tamiyo now. Hexmage kills this, as well as Abrupt Decays. We have 2 more Abrupt Decays? 1 more Abrupt Decay? I can't remember. A Sylvan Scrying that we can cast right now. Let's do that. Let's go and get a Thespian stage, and let's deploy the Thespian stage. The -1 off this won't stop them from being able to deal with the 20 damage coming through. Right, they have an Entomb, so they're going to reanimate a giant monster. It's an Atraxa. Oh dear, Entomb. Why do you exist? Alright, I think this game is over now. We'll see what they get off the Atraxa, in case our opponent's got some new cool tech for us to look at. So what do we have here? We have another Force of Will and blue card. So we can make a 20/20, but they can borrow it. We won't be able to resolve any spell that protects our creature. This is going to hit us once, twice. So there's one next turn. So we have like 1 draw that has to be really, really good. I'm trying to think how we actually get through this. The Tamiyo can rebuy whatever they want as well. They're getting another Force of Will. So they have double Force of Will back up here. Okay, I think we're done there. Yeah, that was unfortunate. I would back us most of the time in the situation we found ourselves in. We just couldn't hit the land we needed to play some stuff around the days that we suspected our opponent had by the way they were playing. We just didn't quite get there. Like, there's a reason this deck is the best deck in the format, and I don't think it's actually very close right now. Let's go to round 3. This hand goes pretty hard, doesn't it? So we can go turn 1 Thoughtseize. We can go turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 Sylvan Scrying, turn 3 combo. Or we can go turn 1 Sylvan Scrying and Thoughtseize. And then turn 2... So that's a turn 3, whichever way we do it. Alright, well step 1 is going to be Thoughtseize. And then we can work out what our opponent's doing and how much we need to leverage a card in our hand if we expect them to get discarded or countered. We can then just throw them out right now. A Baleful Strix, a Sink into Stupor, a Force of Negation. It's kind of annoying. There's an annoying selection of things here. I don't really want them to have Force of Negation, I think, is the most annoying one right now. So I think this means we go... How do we want to cast this? Are we holding back the Petal, or are we holding back the Spirit Guide? The Surprise mana from the Spirit Guide is cool, but I think we are just going to hold this Lotus Petal. I think we're going to play the Lotus Petal. We're just going to insulate ourselves from our opponent being able to Thoughtseize us here. Now we need to get through this Sink into Stupor. Maybe we can clock before they have the mana to cast it. Maybe we can find Defend the Rider and it can get to do something. Right, so holding on Fatal Push in case you have any sort of Elvish Reclaimer type stuff. Defend the Rider. Hello. So I would like a piece of fast mana, which is asking a lot given the fact that we've already had so many. We do need to get through this Baleful Strix. I'm curious if they play it this turn. They probably do. Yeah, okay. Makes sense to me. So now our opponent has to hold up 3 mana at all times or they lose the game. They might just think, I've got a Baleful Strix. I'm just going to be okay. That's what they're doing. That's pretty good news for us, actually. So that means we can just have Defend the Rider, a Tamiyo. Sure, they have a lot of chump blockers over there. They are risking us having a Sejiri Steppe straight away. Not a Sejiri Steppe, but it does give us the ability to play this, both Defend the Riders. So we're just going to try and crunch through these a few times and then defend ourselves against the Sink into Stupor. Obviously, Not of This World would do the same deal here. So it's not really any better for us. In fact, it's kind of worse because we don't get to play around anything like a Daze as easily. But our opponent's going to tap out for this Sink into Stupor, and then they're going to lose a creature, and then they're going to have to find another answer. Underground Sea. Target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Now there's a Force of Will. We have another one of these though. We get to keep our creature. What do they pitch to that one? An Ingenious Infiltrator. Alright, our opponent's on the Ninja's plan. That is a really important piece of information that they've given us there. Alright, we need a Land Tutor or a Sejiri Steppe here. Did not find the Land Tutor. I will crack for 20. So we can play this out and start chipping counters away. Or we can represent something. Our opponent doesn't have a choice to play around anything in our hand. So it makes sense for us to play this out. We can start removing counters from this because it might end up being relevant. They might have to be Tamiyoing here. So I think their plan is to attack with the Tamiyo, flip the Tamiyo. No, it's going to be too much work for them to be able to buy back this Sink into Stupor. Do they have a Mystic Sanctuary here? Unlikely in ninjas, but not impossible. So this could be a Kaito line. That's pretty strong. Kaito can tap this down, and then we're going to be sort of waiting around, and then this will never quite get the damage in. Alright, they don't have a Kaito. Good. Let's remove an ice counter. It's unlikely to matter, but you never know. A Pithing Needle. Intriguing. I will attack and put this creature into the bin. And then I will cast this on Kaito Bane of Nightmares. I'm pretty sure that's the one. Like, it's from the Dustmourne set. I'm 99% sure it's Kaito Bane of Nightmares. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, is it? I'm pretty sure it is. Brainstorm, that's not a bad way to find an answer. Our opponent probably doesn't have many answers here. Probably have a second Sink into Stupor, and that's maybe it. I doubt they have any Edict effects in their main deck. They probably have them in the sideboard. Blue, blue, black. This looks like a Sink into Stupor to me. It is. Okay, so they found the other Sink into Stupor. Alright, so our opponent spent a lot of resources on dealing with that, and we are one card away from doing it again. Or 9 turns if we're just going to spend all the mana here. Tamiyo is a very good way to recover here. But we have many, many draws at work with this. I was about to say Hexmage is unfortunately not one of them, and we drew it. Because we do not have the black for this. So we'll be removing some counters from our Dark Depths until we find a black source or something else that goes with this. In comes a Tamiyo. They can flip this at some point and then buy back a Sink into Stupor, which is something I'm not looking forward to. Cracking Clue tokens, they have a cantrip here as well to flip this. Looks like they do. No. 3 mana. A Urike. I will remove a counter from this. It's very unlikely to be relevant. A Pithing Needle. I'm okay with a preemptive Pithing Needle on Tamiyo, whatever the backside is called. Tamiyo. Seasoned Scholar, I'm pretty sure is the one. Seasoned Scholar. Why doesn't it show me the backside? There we go. Seasoned Scholar. Okay. So they can't buy back the Sink into Stupor. I do not believe they have an additional Sink into Stupor in their deck. 2 is normally the most you can fit into the Ninja's deck. They might have 1 Borrower, but it's unlikely. So we just need to find a black source, which is very abundant in our deck, or we need to find like a crop rotation style thing. We do need to fade our opponent. Oh wow, they have a 3rd Sink into Stupor. Okay. That's certainly irritating. I won't lie. We're going to see a Baleful Strix here, so they can flip the Tamiyo if they want to, but that's not very good when I've Pithing Needled it. I think this one's running away from us a little bit now. We have 2 Defend the Riders left in our deck. We've got a bunch of hand disruption that can take the Sink into Stupor. All of the hand disruption we play can hit this. Harbinger of the Seas. In the main deck, yeah, that's some nonsense right there. How do we beat this? We can block it. That's not going to happen though, is it? Yeah, I think we're done there. Alright, our opponent has an unusual build of ninjas with lots of Sink into Stupors and main deck Harbinger. Okay, understood. I would like some Abrupt Decays. Do I want some Not of This World? 0 mana and 1 mana is quite a big difference here. We obviously want to stop Wasteland. We don't need a Bojuka Bog, so that can get out of here. The Duress does seem good considering our opponent's running Sink into Stupor, so I think we probably want to keep hold of that one. Ninja decks don't run Wasteland. So I'm going to take out these Pithing Needles. Yes, the Pithing Needle can stop Kaito, but I don't think that's where our problem is going to be. I think I'd rather just have the Not of This World and the Defend the Riders. So we should probably swap some Defend the Riders for Not of This World, because these are free. And that is kind of a big deal here. We don't need the Ghost Quarter, actually, so we can probably have a Defend the Rider back in. Alright, we'll try this. In my experience, Ninjas have been a relatively fine matchup because the way their deck's comprised means that they're tapping out a lot, which means they either have to forego pressure and allow us to build up resources, or they play right into our combo and let us win. What do we have here? We need to find one of 16 cards. About a 1 in 3 shots. We have the ability to defend ourselves quite well. We also have a little bit of disruption. I think I will keep this one. Like, our opponent's going to prioritize a hand with protection. Disruption, sorry. Let's get this Inquisition down before our opponent can brainstorm any cards away and protect. A Changing Outcast, a Daze, and a Thoughtseize. Do we care about any of these cards that much? I don't really care about the Daze. The Thoughtseize can only take away 1 of our pieces. I think we just get rid of the Changing Outcast and don't worry about them putting anything scary for a while. If they Thoughtseize us, they take the Not of This World. That's it. Alright, do that. This just slows our opponent's roll quite a bit. If they have to spend 3 mana for their threats, that's a lot. I'm going for the Flooded Strand first, so that they can get access to a Underground Sea, so they can Thoughtseize and Daze in the same turn. So no. Oh, they're going to be things anyway because of our Urborg, right? So we're getting Thoughtseize. They're going to take the Knot of this World, I think, because it's the cheaper card to cast. But we're already going to be playing around Daze with whatever other spells we play, so we're probably going to have the mana for Defend the Rider anyway. Alright, there goes the Knot of this World. It's back over to us. Can we find some goods here? Okay, I don't hate that one. I'm going to play out this Verdant Catacombs with the intention of getting a forest. So there is the downside of, okay, maybe we play out the Dark Depths and we draw a Thespian stage next turn. But I like getting a basic, and we want to be playing slower anyway, so we can use Defend the Rider. Brainstorm is an excellent draw for our opponent. I imagine they're getting rid of at least a swamp here. Probably 2 swamps, but we'll see. Basically the perfect card our opponent wanted at that turn, I would say. A Changeling Outcast. So we have a choice here. We can allow this to connect with us and possibly leave us exposed to something like a Kaito next turn. Or we can hold this because we don't actually have a route to the combo yet. So I think we have to play this one a little bit cagey. I don't want to play this in case they play the Harbinger. So I'm going to play out this Bayou first. So if they play out a Harbinger, we can then play this and then Abrupt Decay the Harbinger. And that is our combo right there. A Polluted Delta. Go and get a basic island. Play Harbinger of the Seas, please. Ah, it was a Brainstorm all along. Boo earns. They could be finding a Ninja here, but they can't be playing Kaito, which is the Ninja we care about most. Now we can use the Defend the Rider to protect against the Kaito as well when the time comes. Oh wow, a Ninja. Which one is it going to be? Is it going to be Yuriko? No, it's going to be this one. This doesn't give us information of what they're drawing, which is a shame. I don't know if they've got this Polluted Delta in hand, if that's the one they cracked off or whatever. We just assume. Why is it not letting... Oh, we don't have any targets for the Abrupt Decay. This is... Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So we have Thoughtseize here, which is obviously a useful card to have. So I would like to fire off this Thoughtseize while our opponent's tapped out. What are you working with over there? Sink into Stupor, Force of Will, Changing Outcast. So kind of a load of nothing and a Sink into Stupor. I think we just take the Sink. And do we play out this Lotus Petal now? I don't see why not. Do I play this one out or do I hold out for a Harbinger of the Seas coming down? I think we want the Harbinger of the Seas to come down. If our opponent's going to help us combo, we should let them. Right, so they played a Polluted Delta. Please play your Harbinger of the Seas. Just going to be a Brainstorm, I suspect. But they could Brainstorm into Harbinger. Oh no, is this it? Come on. Don't be a coward. Play your Harbinger. Changing Outcast. Feels like they have it the way they were tapping there. There it is. So this is actually what we've been waiting for this whole time. We have the black mana off of the Lotus Petal. I will play this Dark Depths out. We will not try to snag something in combat. We're just going to try and get our opponent to tap out of as much mana as possible. 2, 3, 4, 5. Totally fine with that. That's it. You put something in there. As a Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. It's good, but it's not good enough, hopefully. They are drawing some cards here, but they don't have any access to being able to stop what we're doing here. 1 mana is probably not going to be enough. Now they can go and get a blue card off of this. So what we don't want to see is Tamiyo off of this. That would be worst case scenario for us. Ah, why do you have to have a Tamiyo? What is our solution to this problem? I think the solution is we still have to blow up the Harbinger. We don't know if they drew that Tamiyo or they were slow rolling it, but they didn't have it early when we checked their hand. We'll float some black mana just in case. A Knot of this World. So we have 2 attempts here to protect our creature. That's not bad. Let's attack them, I think, here. Whatever they do, they're going to block here anyway, so it doesn't really matter. They're more likely to let it go through if we target the Kaito, I think. Let's target the Kaito. They're going to block. 100% they're going to block. So we have 2 pieces of protection. They have 1 answer and 2 counterspells at present. Oh wait, they're just going to kill us with their guys, aren't they? They just Ninja Emblem and we die. We have to make this Defend the Rider, right? To block. Okay. We just get the guy. Yeah, this is awkward, because now they can tap down our guy instead. But we're not dead to the emblem. This is getting ugly. I think it's been ugly for a little while, to be honest. How are we going to wake our little friend up? We need like a Legolas's quick reflexes. What does this do for us right now? We have to play this out. They will immediately answer it with... If we'd have drawn these the other way around, maybe we're not going to get through the force, actually, were we? So they're just going to daze this on the hard cast, and then they kill us with their guy. Yeah, no, our opponent just had it there. A slightly unusual build with the main deck Harbinger that kind of blew us out a little bit. They had to have the exact string of things they had, so I don't feel too bad about this one. I haven't played against ninjas too often, but generally it's been relatively favourable because they're tapping out on their turn. But once they start sort of cooking with all their stuff, it's very good. Alright, let's go to round 4. Okay, this hand looks alright to me. We can keep this. We need to make a decision. Are we playing around Wasteland, or are we playing around our opponent having some spooky stuff? If they mulligan to 5, I'll Duress first. Otherwise, I think we're playing the Pithing Needle first. What is this? Leyline of Transformation. Choose a creature type. Creatures you control are of the chosen type in addition to their other types. I don't know what our opponent's doing. I think I want to just Duress our opponent here. I'm a little bit worried about what our opponent could be doing. Alright, so name Sliver. They've got some slivers here. What is this one? Hatchery Sliver. Each sliver spell you cast has Replicate. Okay, so I have 2 Once Upon a Times. So we'll just take this Ponder, I guess. Wasteland is a card our opponent has access to in their deck, I suspect. But they're on a no-lander here. And they're making all of their creatures slivers for some reason. This is probably also just a blue card for Force of Will. But I am a little bit confused as to what they're up to. What are they trying to replicate that is worth doing this with? So they get to draw their card, then they get to Once Upon a Time and see if they can find anything. They got a Windswept Heath. Interestingly not Once Upon a Timing. Do they not have any 1-drop slivers? It's a little suspect. Okay. I would like to cast a Pithing Needle. They're going to crack their Windswept Heath so we don't name it. We're going to name Wasteland. I don't know if our opponent's running it, but it's the thing that annoys us the most. And Sliver decks used to run Wastelands. If they mill over someone that gives us some information that we're worried about, then we can obviously do that as well. Predatory Sliver, just a normal little sliver. So the correct card to play out here is Dark Depths, because if we draw a Hexmage, we can do that next turn, whereas if we play the Thespian stage, we have to draw a piece of fast mana. And if we draw a piece of fast mana, we can still play the Thespian stage anyway. So this is the quickest route to comboing here. They have a Windswept Heath again. Are we going to see the Once Upon a Time? Surely it's time. A Scrub Land. Okay, so we are in all the colours. That's what you're telling me. Here is a Once Upon a Time. So we get to see another card from our opponent's deck. An Orcish Bowmasters. That is a card that does not bother us. So you just hold this up. So this is a sliver, I guess, because of their Hatchery Sliver can replicate it because of the ley line. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Cool though. I like seeing different stuff. So this turn we probably play out the Thespian stage here. We've got Defend the Rider if we need it. I suspect they'll just play a Bowmasters to start attacking. And they're just casting this. I got a feeling there's some sort of weird combo I'm not aware of that's going to happen to us. Found an Underground Sea. Okay, so we're black, white, blue, green so far. No red mana yet. We'll see if that comes along. I think if they were playing red mana, they probably wouldn't be a fetch land mana base. Just play all the Meticulous Archive. Okay. Can't say I'm sure what's happening. Wouldn't mind finding like an Urborg or a Yavimaya here, so we can hold up the Defend the Rider, just in case something weird happens. Because let's face it, what's happening is weird, and I don't know what's going down. An Inquisition of Kozilek. We could fire that off and see what's going on, but we don't really need to, do we? We can just play out this swamp. I don't know what our opponent's doing, and by playing out the swamp, we avoid timings of cracking fetches. So we're representing the combo. We don't know if our opponent has an answer to what we're doing. We've seen the Bowmasters this time around. We are. Okay. Just some little guy that we don't care about. That's fine. Really confused as to what our opponent's deck is doing. I hope they get us with it at some point, because I would like to see something sweet. Alright, they're just scooping it up. Okay. So they're playing slivers, so that's a bunch of creature stuff. So I guess we want some Abrupt Decays. I don't believe we need Bojuka Bogs. With their mana base and the fact they're playing this big expensive Replicate sliver, do I think they're playing Pithing Needles? I don't think they are. Sorry, not Pithing Needles, playing Wastelands that we need the Pithing Needles for. Sorry. I don't think we want Duress here. Maybe we'll trim a Pithing Needle. Do we want any more protection like Not of This World? I think I'll have one Not of This World in. I think the Not of This World is better than Defend the Rider. I've said that many times. But we are testing the new card out, so we're going to leave it in here. Don't really know what our opponent's up to, which is always exciting. If our opponent's not running counter magic, this hand is absolutely cracked. So let's try it. We didn't see any counter magic last time. And we could always just draw an Urborg on the first turn and just have it all. Well, they've got their Leyline of Slivers. They showed us black cards. They showed us green cards. Do they have enough room to even run a Force of Will here in their deck? Like with what they showed us last time, it doesn't look that way. Would love to draw an Urborg here, though. That would be delightful. We did not draw the Urborg. I think I would rather play this one out and crop rotate this one away, because the Yavimaya is 2 mana alongside our Dark Depths. Do you have counter spells? They do not. I would like to get this Urborg then. And I would like to Thoughtseize my opponent and get a good look at whatever wonderful stuff is happening over there. Ensnaring Bridge. Well, I don't really want to play against that, so let's get rid of it. And that just leaves them with this very expensive do-nothing guy. What does this do? It is a 2-2, and it's the replicate one that we saw last time. But we have a turn 2 MARIT LAGE with Not of This World backup. We don't even know if our opponent has answers. They have shown us the Cavern of Soul, which isn't a surprise. I'm surprised they're not running Sliver Hive, and then maybe just some other rainbow lands. They're cracking this Flooded Strand. Do they have another Surveil land? We showed us a Hedge Maze last time. If it's a Hedge Maze again, they're very much in Bant colours, it would look. So the black is just like a splash. They're binning off a Cavern of Souls. That's good. We don't want them to have the card on top be one they want. Can they afford to run Wasteland in their deck? I guess we'll find out very soon. There are like bounce slivers. I don't know how much they cost. But we have the Not of This World. So we're going to play around the Wasteland by doing it next turn. White mana for this sliver. It's just the hatchery guy. He likes more sliver friends. I don't know what set this is from. I assume that's a commander symbol. I don't know what set it is though. Let's have a Hexmage. Let's have a 2020. We're sat here with a protection spell. We know our opponent's got one mystery card in hand and the other cards are kind of irrelevant. We have one piece of protection. If we untap and get to our main phase, we have 2 pieces of protection because we also have the crop rotation. So I guess like some sort of bounce server plus days would be bad for us. But I don't know if our opponent has days in their deck. They could do. But I think given we know our opponent's resources, it's best just to send it here. Alright, we win the match 2-0. Not really sure what the rest of our opponent's deck is, which is a shame. I would have liked to have seen something, but that's 4 rounds done. So we are currently 2-2, looking for the positive record going into the final round. This opening hand does struggle to cast any spells. I think we can do a little bit better than this. I would describe this one as better. Then we keep this, we probably throw away the Inquisition. I think we lead off on the stage here. The stage can be wastelanded. It sets us back. It's annoying, but we can still get where we need to go. If this gets wastelanded, we have no green mana, we don't get to play the game anymore. A gamble. Alright, our opponent's up to no good over there. Underground Sea goes to the bin. That's probably not the one they wanted to gamble away. But it gives me the impression that our opponent has Lion's Eye Diamond and Echo of Eons in their hand right now. But do they want to go this turn, or do they want to wait a little bit? If we can find a black source, we can try and Thoughtseize our opponent. Right, our opponent's just passing it over there. They tanked for a while, I don't know if they had to go away or whatever. Okay, so we could just try and go here for like next turn. I think the play here is to play this Lotus Petal. We Sylvan Scrying for Urborg. Play the Urborg. Then we Thoughtseize. This way we have the combo next turn. Okay, what do we have here? Nothing really going on. I'm going to take this Lion's Eye Diamond because that's the only thing they had going on. Surprised they didn't fire that off last turn. We've now kind of left our opponent with very little. So they've got this Echo of Eons with no way of getting rid of it. Now they can gamble into an LED, but they have to hit with it. Here comes the gamble. Beseech the Mirror went away, so they have a Lion's Eye Diamond. So we're probably getting a new hand, but with 7 cards on our hand, the chance of us being able to find a Dark Depths are relatively high. But it might take us an additional turn, which is obviously a problem. I just don't want to die this turn. That's the main thing I'm worried about. Our opponent could brainstorm first if they wanted to. They could just echo with the ability to have a mana floating off of their Verdant Catacombs. They're just passing again. Another piece of fast mana would be great because we could blow up this Lion's Eye Diamond and just shut them down. Not a piece of fast mana. So we need to make a decision. Are we just trying to slow our opponent down again? If we go to blow this up, then they can just crack it in response and have the echo anyway. So I think we're just supposed to play out the Dark Depths here. I wonder why our opponent's being so cagey. I guess they feel they don't have to go yet. So they want a bit of surveil actions. There's probably going to be an Undercity Sewers, I would imagine, unless they're going to fire off the Brainstorm right now. I suck at playing Storm, but I can recognise play patterns from the other side. Alright, there is an Undercity Sewers. We've got a bunch of Null Rods for the post-war games, which makes things a little bit easier on us. A Dark Ritual, not a bad one to have access to there for our opponent. Right, so they're discarding their hand here. So Lion's Eye Diamond. They're leaving one blue floating here. What does our new hand do? It Thoughtseizes a lot. We can get through a blocker, but we don't care about that. We just want to survive this turn. Right, we've got a Dark Ritual popping off there. Another Lion's Eye Diamond. Storm count creeping up here. Another Lion's Eye Diamond. So this is lethal with a whole bunch of things. Like Beseech is lethal here. Right, so go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, they have enough Storm with the Beseech here. Alright, we're doing an Echo of Eons again instead. That is not guaranteed lethal. I will exile this Elvish Spirit Guide. That way, if we draw the Boseiju or a crop rotation, we can do some stuff here. So I don't know if we want to crop rotate. I don't really know what that does for us. I guess we have Bojuka Bog, actually. That's pretty good. So we can beat a Beseech line now, right? Okay. My brain managed to work it out. We have an additional Spirit Guide as well. Not that that's really going to make any difference here, but I don't mind having a bit more mana in case we get looped again. Might give us access to crop rotate into Bojuka Bog, crop rotate into Ghost Quarter or something. Unlikely that's going to make a difference doing the Ghost Quarter line, but you never know. We can also crop rotate away our Bojuka Bog so they get shuffled back in from an Echo. There's a lot of weird options available. I've probably spent quite a lot of time with their clock puzzling this turn out, but I don't blame them. I find Storm borderline impossible to play. So that gives them protection from stuff. You and opponents you control gain hexproof and protection from blue and black. Okay, that doesn't impact our interaction. They Beseech the Mirror. I think that's okay. If they go for the graveyard line, we wait for them to put it down. A Dark Ritual is what they went for. Okay. A Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. Beseech the Mirror. So this can just get tendrils and kill us. Can we dodge that in any way, shape or form? I don't believe we can. We don't have a land that gives us protection. Alright, let's skip that one up. Right, we've got a bunch of cards that aren't particularly good here. Sejiri Steppe, Pithing Needle, Defend the Riders. None of these seem particularly useful in this matchup. I'll tell you what does look good. Null Rods and Collector Ouphes. They look great. Abrupt Decays, if they hang out one of their permanents, is also fine. And I don't mind having some Faerie Macabres just to hate on the graveyard a little bit more. Would I rank a Faerie Macabre over a Ghost Quarter? I think so. And then we just have our hand disruption and our general plan. That seems alright to me. So the Faerie Macabres sometimes do nothing, but they can sometimes mean that their Gaia's Will line just doesn't work and you win the game. And I'll take a card that sometimes wins us the game versus a card that does nothing. Ghost Quarter is arguable because they are a little bit tight on mana sometimes, and they don't have basics, so this is just a strip mine. We're supposed to have the Ghost Quarter on the play, and then the Macabres on the draw, but I think I like just having the Macabres here. I can certainly see having the Ghost Quarter still though. The Gaia's Will lines tend to be the easier lines to put together as well, but we're mainly just trying to get a Null Rod effect in and just sit on it. We could play Defend the Rider to protect our Collector Ouphe or Null Rod. That's kind of interesting. Do I like that more than having all of these things? I don't think so. Just if they have to play anything out to dodge discard, we catch it with a Abrupt Decay. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. This is a turn 1 Collector Ouphe on the play. I will take that. I believe we're using our Swamp to do this as well. So in case we draw any hand disruption, that is an option available to us. We're going to be a bit slow on winning the game, but Collector Ouphe should shut down our opponent quite well. So turn 1 Swamp, turn 2 Boseiju, Tutor. I guess if we play the Thespian stage out and we draw fast mana, we can maybe go 1 turn earlier. So if we go Thespian stage, pitch this, go and find the Dark Depths. Sorry, play the Collector Ouphe. Turn 2, we play the Boseiju, go and get the Dark Depths. And then if we draw a piece of fast mana, we can go on turn 3. Because our opponent will be able to beat Collector Ouphe if we give them infinite time. Now, Collector Ouphe and Lotus Petal is a bit of a nombo, but we need to be able to get Collector Ouphe into play as soon as possible. And just having more draws that shut our opponent's deck down is fine. Sure, this will shut down some Lotus Petals in our deck. But that's not an issue for us. It's more annoying than it is a problem. My win rate against the Epic Storm is pretty good with Turbodepths. My win rate against some of the other Storm variants that don't really use artifacts, not so good. So like the blue High Tide decks are a bit of a pain for us. And the mono red Ruby Storm can be really irritating as well because we don't really interact with them and it's kind of just a race. Right, we've got Bloodstained Mire being cracked over the other side. We're getting Thoughtseize here. That means we're going to lose our Sylvan Scrying. Now our deck is designed to find Dark Depths, so we will eventually be able to find it. But we have a threat in play that is also stopping our opponent from being able to win the game, or making it very difficult for our opponent to win the game. They can do things with a bunch of dark rituals and stuff, or they can, you know, slowly go through getting a removal spell off of a Burning Wish to kill this. We just drew another Sylvan Scrying. I am quite happy with that, obviously. Classic Thoughtseize bug, as some like to call it. It's not a bug, it's just you notice it when it comes up. So we're going to get this Dark Depths, and we continue. So a piece of fast mana we get to go next turn, otherwise we need to wait one more turn, which is still fine. Our opponent should be relatively shut down by this, because it shuts down the Lotus Petals, the Mox, and most importantly the Lion's Eye Diamond. Lion's Eye Diamond is the best card in our opponent's deck, because that card is busted. Do we get a bit of fast mana? We do not get a bit of fast mana. So we play this one out, I believe. Do we Sylvan Scrying for anything here? And we attack for 2. I would Surveil, sorry, not Surveil, Scrying for a Boseiju if we had another one. Let's just fire this one off. What do we want? Don't really want a Bojuka Bog here. We could just get another Dark Depths so we can go if they have any sort of bounce action. I don't hate that. So I don't really like getting the Bojuka Bog because we need to be able to do that instant speed. Doing it sorcery speed doesn't really matter against our opponent's deck for the most part. A Brainstorm. It's very unlikely they kill our Collector Ouphe this turn. They have to kill it next turn and go off, which could be difficult. But they could go and find another mana source here, play it, Burning Wish, get an answer, untap, and then all they have to do is pay for the answer. So it's probably going to be like the blue spell, Void Snare, I think, is the one that you get, which is a sorcery speed with bounce any non-land permanent, I think it is, for 1 mana. They could have like Grape Shot to kill creatures. That's relatively common in some of these lists. Alright, our opponent's not made a land drop. A Lotus Petal. I'll place that. I will play out the Lotus Petal because if they get rid of our Collector Ouphe, this gives us mana down the track. So if they're doing Echo of Eons, maybe they Echo of Eons us into like a clutch crop rotation to stop them being able to do graveyard stuff. Obviously, graveyard stuff doesn't stop their Echo of Eons because they will always put it on the stack as soon as they get priority, so we never get a chance to snipe out the graveyard, but we can stop the Gaia's Will lines. Our opponent must know if they're alive or dead based on the fact that they brainstormed last turn without a shuffle. Another brainstorm. Okay, so they're getting to see 1 card deeper. It's certainly possible. They're just selecting through like 9 cards here. They can still bargain stuff away. They just don't get to activate the abilities of the artifacts. They could still, you know, just play a Lotus Petal as a thing to bargain away into something a bit better. It still gives them Storm count as well. Our opponent has resolved their Brainstorm, and now they are playing a land and passing. That probably means they have an answer to our MARIT LAGE here, but we have the ability to go again in a second. Our opponent's time on the clock is quite low as well. They're going to Boseiju us, and we're going to get a Bayou. Okay, that's fine. At the end of the day, if that's what they've spent their time doing, we can just go again this turn. Like it's what our deck does at the end of the day. Splash for 2, and then we have a MARIT LAGE ready to go. I don't want them to be able to tutor up an answer with a Burning Wish to finish our thing off. This does expose us to another Boseiju, but I don't know how many Boseijus they're realistically running here. Try again. let's go to the sideboard again. Do we want to do anything differently? I don't think so. Like, the Abrupt Decays are a little bit slower. So maybe we'll get one Ghost Quarter in, because just having a land is generically good. So if we're on the draw, getting up to Abrupt Decay mana can be a little bit trickier. But we definitely want the Lotus Petals on the draw, because we need to try and break serve on terms of the amount of mana we have, so we can try and do a turn 1 Collector Ouphe. Do I want a Faerie Macabre just to make sure that we don't die on turn 1? If we do that, we probably have to get rid of this Ghost Quarter or an Abrupt Decay. Well, I guess we'll get rid of an Abrupt Decay this time around. We'll try this out. Well, these Faerie Macabres can just sit in our hand and do nothing, but so can the Abrupt Decays. We're just kind of tinkering with the edges at that point. This is where they probably brought in some more removal for our Collector Ouphe. And maybe they brought out some stuff that would hit the Null Rod, and then we just get to Null Rod them. Alright, we have an opener. We don't lose to turn 1 Beseech the Mirror combo. But what does our hand do here? We do have access to the combo. We do have a little bit of hand disruption. I think this is a keeper. It's not incredible, but it's fine. We have 2 axes of interaction. One is an axis that makes it so that we're likely to get to our first turn. Because the easiest way to combo on turn 1 with Storm is via the Gaia's Will line. Our opponent kept 6 cards. Let's hope they go for a Beseech the Mirror into Gaia's Will line and we just get to win. That would be lovely. A Lion's Eye Diamond. This could just be an Echo of Eon's line. That is a Lotus Petal. Another Lotus Petal. And a pass. Intriguing. So I could take out this Lion's Eye Diamond. But I think we're just going to fire up a Bayou here and Thoughtseize our opponent. Because we can Faerie Macabre it away if we hit something we don't want to hit. An Abrupt Decay. Alright, our opponent doesn't have anything going on. They got mana, they need a payoff. But they can't get a Storm payoff very easily, like a Galvanic Relay. But they probably boarded them out because that's too slow in the matchup. So they got another Surveil land. So they're going to go and get Undersea Sewers most likely here. Because if they mill over the Echo, they can just go here. We don't get a window to hit that with the Faerie Macabre. Okay, a Tendrils is gone. We can exile this at some point, hoping that our opponent doesn't have access to a sideboard copy. Which is unlikely, but it is possible. This Ghost Quarter is a strip mine against our opponent, so we could just take our opponent off of a colour, but they do have these petals and whatnot hanging around. A Lotus Petal of our very own. So we can't quite go off this turn. We can play this Thespian stage. We can cast this Sylvan Scrying. We can go and get the Dark Depths for next turn. We can deploy this Lotus Petal so we have Boseiju up. If we Boseiju now, we don't get to kill our opponent next turn, but we take them off of this Lion's Eye Diamond. How do we lose this game? We probably lose this game if our opponent Echo the Eons. If we get rid of this, they end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're pretty close to just casting Echo anyway. So I'm going to just have the kill ready to set up in the next turn cycle. A Brainstorm, sure. Our opponent only has 4 minutes and 40 seconds. We have a lot more time on our clock. We are not going to clock out of this one. But it's certainly possible that our opponent does. A Mox Opal. Okay. They have the Echo. What am I doing about this? I could get rid of a Lion's Eye Diamond and we could get rid of this Tendrils and this Lion's Eye Diamond, so they just don't have them in their deck. I could Boseiju away this land. Does come in tapped or untapped? Put it on the battlefield. So that would just give them more mana, so we don't want to do that. So I guess we let ourselves get a new hand. So we have 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. We've got another Faerie Macabre here. Thoughtseize. Do we want to do anything in response to this Thoughtseize? We probably want to get access to our Dark Depths here. Do we want to do it this way? We can just do it off of the Sylvan Scrying anyway, and this holds up more stuff. So we can Sylvan Scrying, go and get the Dark Depths, and then play the Hexmage. So I think we just pass, let them take a card from our hand. Because they can't take both Hexmages or both Tutors. They could take our fast mana and try and mess with us that way. I don't think that's a great plan though. They can't win with the graveyard line is what our hand says. Obviously the Echo of Eon's graveyard line is different to the one I'm talking about with Guy as well. But they'll have the information about what they're playing around. We do have an Abrupt Decay. So the sequencing they have to do is use the Lion's Eye Diamond as the penultimate card from their hand if they want to do an Echo of Eons play. Because that way we won't get any priority to blow it up. A Dark Ritual, sure. They might have also been baiting us into casting a spell. They have to Burning Wish here if they want to get the Tendrils, because we've exiled it. If we don't, they took out the Abrupt Decay, so we don't have a choice of blowing this up, do we? Getting Ghost Core doesn't help here. Okay. They have enough to go for Burning Wish into Tendrils anyway. We don't have any way of gaining any secret life in our lands. A Beseech the Mirror line. With one card in our opponent's hand. I will allow this to resolve. A face down card over there. It's another Beseech the Mirror. So they're just going to go up the Tendrils line here. And that's going to be lethal, and we can't do anything about it here. They have a Lion's Eye Diamond in hand here. They've gone for a Lion's Eye Diamond. So they have to do a spin. Is there a way that we can interrupt them spinning here? I don't believe there is. So they're getting a Burning Wish here. Is there a way that we can interrupt this? I don't believe there is. Now, this whole chain was done in a way that we couldn't beat it. Tendrils of Agony. I don't think we have any solution to this problem. Alright, we will concede. That is the first game I've lost to the Epic Storm for a while with this deck, but it happens. Let's see. So we finished with a 2-3, which is obviously not a good record. I did record a league that didn't have sound on just before I started that we finished 3-2. So that's 5-5 with this particular list. Let's talk about it. So, what do I like and dislike about this deck? I think, well, the card we're talking about today is Defend the Rider. I've changed up the mana base a little bit to add another land to accommodate for this, and I've removed some of the tools that I've really been enjoying in the form of the Once Upon a Time. So, did Defend the Rider do anything really this league that we could have done with anything else? Not really. This didn't really achieve anything new that we weren't already doing. In the league I played earlier today, I did manage to win a game because of Defend the Rider, which was slightly different than if we'd have had a Not of This World, because we had a weird situation with like Kozilek's Command and the Disruptor Flute. So there was like some weird play patterns which involved me having to play around a Wasteland and a bounce spell on something on the Pithing Needle we had. So we ended up having to use the Defend the Rider, which was the only card really that we could have had that would have worked there, and it did work. But that was a very niche situation, and I just don't think this is good enough because 1 mana is so much mana in this deck. We are so greedy for our mana the turn we're going off. I don't really like Defend the Rider in the main deck. Obviously, I'll try it out a little bit more, but this is not a card that I particularly want in the main deck. However, it does shine quite a lot in the sideboard, I think, because this card against Dimir Tempo is just like a Swiss Army knife of all the things you want, right? It protects you against Wasteland, Brazen Borrower, and Shoulder's Edict. And that is like the trifecta of things that their deck does to impact us. So I don't mind trying this over the Sylvan Safekeeper. The problem is, Sylvan Safekeeper is really good with our Once Upon a Time. So there is that little factor. I think this list is probably weaker than what I've been playing normally. We were expecting that. We just wanted to see Defend the Rider. I think I wouldn't play 4 of these even if I was really high on it. I think I'd probably want to cut one of these for another Duress or something, rather than having 3 of this 1 mana spell that just costs too much. Because it's the 1 mana spell that only works on our go turn, really. And that's not what we want. We want stuff that sets up our go turn. We want our go turn to be as mana efficient as possible. So I think Not of This World is just the best main deck way to protect our MARIT LAGE. Although Defend the Rider can be more flexible. If you're in a format with a lot of removal, I can see playing Defend the Riders in the main deck alongside 4 copies of Not of This World. But again, it's a case of what your meta looks like at that point. I do like the ability to have 8 spells that protect our creature, because we're having to Defend the Rider, which can also protect our land, so it kind of has a little bit more utility to it. But I think Defend the Rider is most likely going to be a sideboard card. Whether or not it ends up being a sideboard card we play over the Sylvan Safekeeper, I don't know. The reason I like Sylvan Safekeeper is 1, it gets found by our Once Upon a Times. 2, it is a card that we can play ahead of our combo turn, but then have a spell. So what we quite often would do with a Sylvan Safekeeper is we play the Sylvan Safekeeper, then let's say turn 2 we make our MARIT LAGE, and now we have protection the turn we're making our MARIT LAGE without needing additional mana, whereas Defend the Rider just doesn't do that. So I'm not super hot on this because it costs 1 mana, which sounds like a ridiculous thing, but 1 mana is a lot of mana in our deck on the go turn. So I think ultimately this card might just suffer the same fate as all the other things like Tamiyo's Safekeeping that never quite got there. If we see a tick up in blue-black, sort of slower tempo-y style builds, this is going to be a really good card because it just hits all of the things that their deck does that disrupt us. But again, that deck is a relatively small percentage of the meta right now, so I'm not sure that's necessarily where we need to be. If you want to see some more details about this sort of deck, by all means check out my Patreon linked in the description. I have a massive guide to this which gets updated monthly with a breakdown of the meta, what we're currently looking at, and what we need to be preparing for, and how the deck looks, including a sideboarding matrix. Alright, thank you so much for watching, please remember to like and subscribe, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.